We are rolling live, man. It's been several weeks. How you doing? I've been missing you. I have, really. I've been missing here, sitting in my little studio of sorts and sharing the podcast sessions throughout the week. However, preoccupied with local responsibilities. A good thing. A very good thing. But things have settled down a little bit there, and here I am again. Ta-da! For some of you, yay! Others of you, here he is again, man. I can't stand him. As an email I randomly received one day, you are insufferable. Thank you. I appreciate that. It motivates me to keep going. I like that. Well, today is Tuesday, and on Tuesdays, we're going to analyze the lyric. That's what we do on Tuesdays. We take a song, random song, anywhere, anything, whatever. And we open it up and we analyze it. From a Christian worldview, of course. A Christian perspective. Because, some of us Gentiles, we converted to Christianity. We chose to follow Christ instead of all these gods we had created in our own minds. And the song we're plucking out today and we're going to investigate, Highway to Hell, dun dun dun, from AC/DC. Yeah. The Antichrist devil child. Remember when parents used to tell us that? Adults be like, stay away from the devil's music. And so we want to open that up because us kids, we just love the stuff, man. We just couldn't get enough of it. And when the parents said we couldn't listen to it, well, that's when we wanted to listen to it a whole bunch more. Because misguided parents say misguided things to their children. And their children are like, that don't sound right. And so we want to know. We go looking. We're like, man, this is awesome. This is a really good rock music band stuff. I like this song. Well, in a great many ways, things aren't as they seem. And when you look into the context and the idea behind the lyric and the mind of the performers, the mind of the pen that through the barstool poetry chose to write the song, you'll find out that it has nothing really to do with, hey, let's all just go to hell and burn eternally and be condemned. But that's what we're told as kids, right? Stay away from that. He's talking about going to hell and how he likes it there. Well, is there a bit of playing with words? Well, yeah, I think so. I think as rebellious youth who have no use for what they perceived as Christianity, which was Christianity created in the image of men, of course, is what they're rebelling against. Yeah, they're going to play around and, make some parents angry, I suppose. Like we all wanted to. Parents just don't understand, right? So Highway to Hell became a thing, and it's a powerhouse rock song, man. It's a whatever. It's just, it captivates you right off the get-go. That was not my first introduction into the AC/DC realm and discography, no. Mine began, I think, with Back in Black, along with a great many other friends, right? The Back in Black album was just, well, it's a multi-platinum selling album for a reason. All the cuts there on that record are just gems of rock and roll. And then that led, of course, to various other portions of the catalog, and Highway to Hell, I think, was next. We were introduced to AC/DC with the Back in Black album. That's how I got, vortexed into the realm of rock and roll. And after that, I was like, hey, what's this one? Highway to Hell. Then I listened to that, and I'm like, well, there's two different singers here. What happened? And of course, with time, you kind of learn to recognize the history of the band and what took place there. And, well, for this session, we're going to be taking a look at Highway to Hell as a song. Okay? That's what we're going to be checking out. Stefan Maya is my name. addedsouls.com is the website. Friends, please consider subscribing to the channel. Give us a comment, stuff like that. Share the link far and wide if you think others might find some value in this kind of stuff. Yeah. All right, let me put it up on the screen here. Our dear friends here, the AC/DC crew. Look at them. Those were my friends back in high school. There's Angus and the Young brothers there, Bon Scott, the singer. And, just a bunch of crazy, young, rebellious kids wanting to play some rock and roll. That's what they did. And they wrote a song. Well, Bon Scott, who was a barstool poet of sorts, he wrote a song called Highway to Hell. And though I understand the prudency of and concerns of parents to have a song called Highway to Hell and tell their kids, hey, listen, don't listen to that. Don't be listening to that kind of music. I get it. As a parent myself now of 3 kids, I understand the boundaries of entertainment and what you want to permit your child to listen to or not listen to. But once you're a teenager and you're born and raised in a rebellious location where everybody's just in a lawless way, and you're born and raised in a location where Christianity is a tradition that was created by man in their own ways, and it wasn't the pure scriptural Christianity we've since come to study and convert to, if you will, the image of the Christ found within the pages of the Holy Scriptures. No, it was a given tradition, a religious denominational pathogen given to us. Like, here's the kind of religion you're going to practice, and here's what Christianity looks like in our image, and so follow that path. And we're like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Being with the pagans and heathens seems like more fun. So we did, and AC/DC was just part of that catalog, right? That history, that chapter of our lives. Some just raunchy, hitting hard rock and roll. They have the formula. It belongs to them. They kind of created that department of sound, and they've stuck with the formulas. Just basic, surface, simple rock and roll. I mean, I think in their catalog, they have like a whole bunch of songs that are just called rock and roll. Rock and roll, rock and roll. That's it. It's the right kind of formula. It works for, everything. So we gravitated around that, and the way that the song, of course, got us into the mix is just, again, it was just fun. But did it really mean, that Bon Scott was proud of going to hell and wanted to sing a song about going to hell? Because I assure you, as strange as this may sound, Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven has a lot more to do with going to hell than AC/DC's Highway to Hell. Yeah, I know, right? No, that can't be true. Oh, it is, but it is, though. I was a music lover for a long period of time, decades. A music lover. One of my first businesses was being a DJ. I wanted to share music with people. I loved music. It was my escape. So I'd be the kid that would get the record, listen to the record, one song after the other, and just read through the lyrics. You could open up that record, see the pictures, just look at the pictures, look at the whole body of art here. What's going on with this one? Whether it be David Bowie, Cat Stevens, Black Sabbath, whoever, Waylon Jennings. I'll go from deep country, true country, Western country to, Slayer in a matter of 2 seconds. Boom. If it has the it factor, if it fitted in my life, it was found there. If it had soul, the mojo. So I would do that. I'd just listen to the lyrics. I'd study the lyrics. And a great many times I'd be like, yeah, as a rebellious kid, lost in a rebellious world, it just made sense. It made sense. So I loved music. I was a lover of music. Played in a band, played in a few bands, played in one band for a long time. Had fun with that, But it is the life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. There's no doubt about that. It's not a life of, let's go to church on Sunday. We wake up Sunday with another bottle of wine, another white horse, and fast women. On to the next. Live fast, die young. Go big or go home. Let's go. Let's do this. Highway to Hell is a song about a struggling rock and roll band on the highway, stopping at all these dives, all these bars, all these locations to perform, where their equipment is breaking down on the road, Their vehicle of transportation, their transport, is breaking down on the road. They're finding themselves in locations where there's a lot of brawls and brawlers, and the owners of the bar don't want to pay them, and they got to fight, and they got to... It's a highway to hell. And all my friends are going to be there too, by the way. Like, we're in this together here. See, they just took the word hell to mean the consequences of a young, struggling rock and roll band hitting the road, trying to become rich and famous. Achoo. Oh, sorry about that. Is that legal? I don't know. It was illegal for a while to sneeze in public, but I don't know. Maybe it's legal now. If it's still illegal, please don't report me. So, yeah, AC/DC played around. Bon Scott, as a barstool poet, messed around with the word hell. And they messed around with the whole thing with the horns and everything because they're worldly kids. We were all worldly kids, brought up in a worldly way, in a worldly atmosphere, where we thought Christianity was what we saw around us in various denominational formats. And so to us, it was like Christianity held no weight. Like, no, because the only thing for those of us who were born in the Gentile side of town, the only Christianity we've ever known is the Christianity created in the image of men, according to men's selfish desires and ambitions, and the religious stupor, this religious drunkenness. We thought, that don't make sense to us. Being with the heathen makes more sense. Okay, so that's what and so they messed around with that because they knew the parents that were snared in all these denominational webs of deceit, claiming Christianity. Well, they were gonna get aggravated at us rebellious youth, having the horns, highway to hell. Yeah, we were bad kids. We wanted to poke fun at it. But the truth is, Bon Scott wrote that song in regards to a young, struggling rock and roll band trying to be rich and famous on the road. It's a highway to hell. And any of you who have had that experience, we know the language. Like, I know the language. You struggle to get paid when you got a gig. Bar owner made all kinds of money off of you selling booze all night because you packed the house. You got lineups outside of the bar. People want to come and listen to you. But he's having a hard time giving you $200? Come on. Get into brawls, get into fights. Equipment breaks down. The vehicle on the way to the next town breaks down. Find yourself in locations where you're not welcome. You're not welcomed. Fairies wear boots, and you gotta believe me. So there's just a lot of those things involved. It's a highway to hell. So you can see how they messed around with that. Absolutely. That's what they did. They messed around with that. And that's what it's about. And when you know this, you don't need to fear it. And you don't need to teach your kids this fear-mongering. It's satanic and demonic, and if you listen to that, you're going to go to hell. No. You're just going to push your kids to listen to it a lot more because that makes no sense to them. You can tell them, hey, listen, this is what it is. It's a song about a struggling rock and roll band who's on the road. There's a lot of consequences. There's a lot of bad stuff going on. And they equate the sacrifice, the consequence, and all of that as hell. People do that. What's one of those popular TV shows? Isn't it Highway to Hell as well, or something along those lines, where the big truckers over here in Canada are helping big rigs who fall off the road because of the icy roads and snow conditions? Isn't it something like that? Road to Hell or Highway to Hell or something? Hell equates a bad place, a bad thing. That's what they're messing around with. That's the idea behind it. Now, that being said, there are boundaries, and there is a matter of one's personal conscience. If you can't listen to the song for entertainment purposes, understanding what it is they're saying and why they're saying it, then don't listen to it. And if you don't want your kids listening to it, don't allow your kids to listen to it. Tell them, no, listen, I don't want you to listen to that kind of music. It's perfectly fine. And I'd back you up as a brother in Christ. I would. I'd be like, dude, if you see it that way, then I encourage you to do that. But for others of us, yes, who may have a, how should I say, maybe stronger conscience. I don't know if that's the right word. We've studied these things. We don't fear these things. We teach our kids, hey, this is what the song's about. And so they're not fearful that it's some kind of a satanic song, and if they listen to it, they're going to hell. But rather, it's just like, hey, it's a pretty cool rock and roll song. I like the orchestra of it is well set together as a simple rock and roll song. The lyrics, he's messing around again with being on the road. Once you get that down pat, then there's nothing to fear. It's the same almost with a great many things. Now, if the song was explicitly speaking foul language or sexual perversions in a way that is, again, explicit with foul language and things like that, yeah, then there is a boundary. There's a boundary that has to do with the law of Christ, which you must abide by, and there is a boundary set by one's own conscience, which you must abide by. Okay? So please understand, when I present these sessions on Tuesdays, I'm allowing my character to be animated as my personality is. I'm not seeking forth to, how should I say, compromise your faith in any way. I share, and I make myself approachable, by the way, which is why we're fruitful and growing. God's good grace allows us to be approachable. We get to talk to the youth. We get to minister to the community. And the community was born and raised listening to AC/DC's Highway to Hell. And if you think we're reaching them by telling them it's the devil's music, and if you listen to them, you're going to hell. So you can see from my perspective, a Gentile, once a Gentile, born in a Gentile world of idolatry and all these kind of things. You can see how I wanted to analyze the lyric. I want to analyze the entertainment we've been watching and viewing, movies, sports, music. And so I want to make sense of it. What's the big deal here? Why? Well, then you learn it and you're like, oh, okay, now it makes sense. And it's the same with Christianity, by the way. If you want to withdraw yourself from Christianity created in the image of men, which is all over the place, it's an ocean of denominationalism. If you've become disenfranchised with that, and you truly want to know what Christianity is in its purest format, then you have to go to the text in which reveals it. The inspired words of the New Testament reveal Christianity in its most purest form. And once you start reading the New Testament system of the New Covenant, the Christianity therein, the Christ, meaning the Christ, you'll find out that he's very different than what is so portrayed as Christianity out there. Well, to that principle, AC/DC's Highway to Hell may give an appearance of evil. And to a certain degree, yes, of course, it is. In a worldly perspective, yes, okay. But it doesn't mean what we've been taught it means. It's not the fear we should have of it. If I'm explaining that properly. So we're going to put the lyrics on the screen here, and we're just going to read through them, you and I. I'm going to go through it and have a conversation. How about that? Let me see here. Turn the screen over to our... there we go. That's much better here. Oh, where am I? There I am. Here. Lyrics on the screen. Highway to Hell. Bon Scott. Living easy, loving free. Season ticket on a one-way ride. Asking nothing. Leave me be. Taking everything in my stride. Don't need reason. I don't need rhyme. Ain't nothing I'd rather do. Going down. Party time. My friends are going to be there too. Well, again, you're in the mind of a young, rebellious youth. And he has his mind governed to rock and roll fame. And he's going to speak about the things he sees and he experiences as an individual who is not following Jesus. Living easy. It's a hard life But there is a perspective of ease to it because you've got no responsibilities or priorities. You do what you want, when you want, where you want to. And though it portrays itself as liberty, it is certainly a shackle because you become slave to that. You become slave to that. But nonetheless, living easy, loving free. Okay? You can do what you want, where you want, when you want it. There are no restraints of law. We're on the road, living for rock and roll. Season ticket on a one-way ride. We're not turning back. We've stiffened our necks. We're going to do this. It's pleasurable. It's exciting. It's dangerous. It's adventurous. It fulfills pride. It furnishes wealth to come. And it forever galvanizes our presence in the canon of history, musical history, the music business. Season ticket on a one-way ride. Asking nothing, leave me be. I'm not going to bother you. You don't bother me. I'm going to do what I want to do. Leave me alone. All right? I'm not asking nothing from you. I'm doing this on my own. Taking everything in my stride. The up, downs, and left and rights. I'll roll with the punches. I'll do what I got to do. I'm moving forward here. Don't need reason, don't need rhyme. Ain't nothing I'd rather do. Ain't nothing I'd rather do. Like, this is it. This is my calling in life. Rock and roll. Being on the road. You know? Living a godless life. And becoming the recipient of all the consequences that come from a godless life. There ain't nothing I'd rather do. Going down. Party time. I'm going down that highway to the next gig, to the next town, to the next bar. And it's a party. It is. We're going to play some rock and roll. We're going to get drunk. We're going to have ourselves a good time. My friends are going to be there too. Yeah. Sinners hang with sinners, man. The lawless kind hangs with the lawless kind. It's what we used to do. We don't want to be with no square. Gonna make us feel guilty because we're getting high. Living the life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Leave us pagans alone, man. Go away. My friends are gonna be there too. Those are the kind of people I want to hang around with. Interestingly, the Bible would say, bad company corrupts good morals. It does. And this young rebellious band, these young guys, that's what they wanted to do. And that's what we did in our past life, didn't we? Yeah. That's what we did. I'm on a highway to hell. On the highway to hell? Highway to hell? I'm on a highway to hell. I'm on the road to the next city, to the next town, to the next dive, to the next gig, to the next bar. We're playing rock and roll, trying to make it in this business. No stop signs, speed limit. Nobody's going to slow me down. Rushing headlong, man. We're rushing headlong. We're going for this. We've counted the cost. We've counted the cost. Like a wheel, gonna spin it. Nobody's gonna mess me around. Hey, Satan, I'm paying my dues. Playing in a rock and roll band. Hey, mama, look at me. I'm on the way to the promised land. He recognizes the rebellion of his choices. Obviously. He knows the Bible would say, for all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, right? The Bible would say that sin, well, where is it in here in Romans? Let me see here. Romans. Which one is it? I can find it here. Come on, where are you? I thought it was in chapter 6 somewhere. The penalty of sin basically is death. Okay, you're working for Satan, and its result is death. It's eternal death. Right? You're losing your innocence. You're participating in lawless activities. You're basically paying your dues. You're working for the devil. Right? That's the idea. And working for the devil may have a few perks here and there, a few worldly, how should I say, a few worldly benefits, but ultimately, you got to pay the piper. Hey, mama, look at me. I'm on the way to the promised land. Again, in his mind, though, again, we'll speak about the Christian perspective, but in his mind, this has everything to do with being on the road, playing in the rock and roll band. That's what it's about. Now, through a Christian perspective, you and I know there's a spiritual angle to it. No doubt. No doubt. And nothing I've been saying is to diminish that. There is a spiritual angle to it. There is an eternal consequence to living the lifestyle they live. Now, some of us were capable of learning that and converting to Christ away from that kind of a lifestyle. Okay? Then, of course, he repeats, I'm on a highway to hell, I'm on a highway to hell, highway to hell. Don't stop me. I'm on a highway to hell. And that continues, of course, repetitively, speaking of that same kind of element. So, yeah, I mean, it's in its very simple format. They messed around with spiritual language in a secular mind as rebellious youth on the road to fame and fortune, rock and roll fame. And they have achieved it, obviously. However, it came at a cost. Let me tell you something. Listen, hopefully you've made it this far in the podcast. In today's TikTok world, you listen for 2 seconds. You're like, now let's go on to the next. But if you actually have the mind to have an attention span to stick around and listen to the value or the substance of things we're sharing here, AC/DC have obviously made it into this iconic rock and roll band that has stood the test of time in the time that is allocated to their craft. Okay? But it came at a cost. It came at a sacrifice. God's providence is a beautiful thing, and we Christians are governed by the winds of God's providence. Well, as an individual who lived in the world, in my past life, we were governed by the providence of lawlessness. And lawlessness has a providence. Remember E.T.? Some of you watched the movie E.T. Remember E.T.? E.T. phone home. Well, remember those, what was it now? Reese's Pieces? They'd put Reese's Pieces about, and E.T. would follow the Reese's Pieces. Providence at times operates that way. E.T. allowed himself to follow the providential path, follow the Reese's Pieces into the house. Well, God has that for his people, those who follow him and love him. And the devil, though currently shackled, his influence is still well and alive in the world. And his influence has a providence. And so it will certainly leave you these Reese's Pieces to follow. And AC/DC did that. And all iconic rock and roll bands, from the Stones to the Eagles to all these massive names, these multi-platinum artists who have been around for decades, they've all done this. They've all told themselves, this is the whole sign your soul to the devil thing, right? They've sold their soul. How so? Well, they follow the providential path to what the devil had to offer them, or the influence of the world, kind of synonymous there in a bit, to receive what they wanted, which is, of course, a selfish life, ultimately. But it came at a cost. How so? Well, Bon Scott suffocated on his own vomit. after a hard liquor party, after a lot of intoxicating influences in his body and his mind. They found him passed away in a vehicle, suffocated on his own vomit. And wouldn't you know it, Highway to Hell was his last body of work. A bit ironic, isn't it? The road he was on, quote unquote hell, to make it to stardom, he had finally just opened the door to it, and the devil pulled his card. Now it's time to go to hell. Or torment, at its current, most accurate description. Which is a very sad tale, no doubt. A very sad account of a man's life, a young man's life. But it serves a quite profound teaching moment for us Christians, solidifying our faith, even more so. That's what happens. And I understood the mind of Bon. I really did. I understood where he was coming from. We lived in that mind. We lived that way. So I get it. But was it worth it? I assure you, as an objective, absolute reality, if Bon could speak from torment, he'd tell you, no, it isn't worth it. Don't do it. And we can even know that spiritually from a recorded account in the scriptures regarding a rich man and a poor man, and a chasm between the two eternally. We know the deep scars of living a life of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Bon died there. The guy died there, man. That was it. Found, departed, after having been suffocated by his own vomit. I mean, good grief. It's sad. It shouldn't have been. What a worthless and vain way to go, In the grand scheme of things, it's all useless if you're not following Christ, if you're not living right. And so the world perceives things as achieving this grand measurement of fame, What's it worth, though? And which the scriptures would tell us that nothing is worth dying and being eternally lost. Nothing. Not riches and fame and fortune. Not a hit song, not a hit record, not being an iconic rock and roll band. And though in this world we find entertainment in all these things, movies and music and sports, Bon gave his life for rock and roll. You can find a sports athlete who gave his life for the sport. You can find an actor who gave his life for acting. And though there is no inherent sin in sports and music and movies, there isn't. It's not an inherently sinful thing. Sadly, men corrupt it and make it sinful. But you can obviously be a music artist or an actor of sorts, or be a sports figure and not participate in sinful activity. Though it's a difficult one. You are snared in a web of a great many sinful things around you, seeking to corrupt you, compromise your faith. But for many of these individuals, like Bon Scott and AC/DC, they wanted the rebellion. And I understand it. There is pleasure in sin, and they went all the way with it. I know what drinking parties are all about. There is a charm to it, and there is a pleasure with it. But it's short-lived. And then death comes calling. Death comes calling. So, the moral of the story. We've analyzed the lyric, okay? I've given you the background. You can check this stuff out for yourself. You can Google it. You can go to songfacts.com, songfacts.com. I use them quite often. They'll give you all kinds of articles, the meaning of this, the meaning of that. And I've been following AC/DC for a long time, so I've listened to the documentaries, I've read the books, I've seen, I have all of their live performances. I have their albums. I have I'm an AC/DC fan. The song is not about a high-handed, hey, we're Satanist and we want to go to hell and that's what we're doing. It isn't. It's about a young, struggling rock and roll band who's on the road and dealing with a lot of opposition, consequences, hostilities, this, that, and the other. And they just define that experience as hell. And yes, there is an element of it in which they are kind of poking fun at Christian beliefs. But remember, they've never known pure Christianity. They never sought it. They never sought to understand. They never sought to understand that. That's to their fault, obviously, with their free will. They should have sought the truth, but they didn't. I mean, okay. So the only thing they've ever known is Christianity created in the image of men, which is the ocean of denominationalism out there. They never went back to Jerusalem in the first century under the Roman Empire and know who Jesus was and why this man died on the cross for you and I. They didn't, they had no idea who Jesus was. They never sought to know the man. You and I have. It changed our life. And so when it comes to this kind of music and your conscience and the boundaries of our Lord and Master's law and things, all of this combined, you make a decision. But now you can know and have a bit of ease and no longer fear the record. My kids understand this because I've told them, because they hear the song. It plays on the radio all the time. It plays everywhere. It's a very popular song. And so they have the context to it now. So they don't need to fear it. But anyhows, that kind of, in a nutshell, puts it all together. And the Christian message, of course, is don't be snared into rock and roll, sex, drugs, and rock and roll life. Don't do it. And for those of you who have, like myself, maybe you come to a moment in life where you're looking in the mirror, you're like, is this it? Is this the purpose of life? Like, this is it. Really? Maybe you want to know more. Maybe you're seeking a way out from the damage of living that life. Okay? Maybe you've had enough of doing drugs and alcohol and breakups and divorces and broken homes and violence and fake people doing fake things, malicious people, slanderers and gossips and brawlers and prostitutes and I don't know, everything you'll find out there. Maybe you've had enough of that. We don't need to stay there. You can make it out of there. Okay? We don't need to live the lyric. We can analyze it. We can understand it. No longer fear it. But we don't need to live the lyric anymore. Because a lot of these songs is why we found ourselves gravitating towards them. Is like, oh, these lyrics are speaking how we're living. When I was songwriting, and I wrote many songs, and I would perform songs, they were about how we were living. A lawless life. Right? You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that. Don't need to go that direction. All right, well, we'll call it a quits for today. I've had a few minutes there into the whole deal. And yeah, again, please consider subscribing to the channel, giving us a thumbs up, hit the notification bell, drop a comment, share the link far and wide, that kind of stuff. My name is Stefan Maillet. addedsouls.com is my website. I labor alongside the East Coast Church of Christ over here in New Brunswick, Canada. Beautiful, healthy, growing church. Wonderful, wonderful souls. You may want to check out the website, eastcoastchurchofchrist.com, our Facebook page, East Coast Church of Christ. Reach out to me if you have any concerns or questions, things like that. I'd be more than happy to talk to you. Maybe you have a song you'd like for me to analyze. Well, by all means, send it my way. I'll put it in the queue, and we'll analyze it in the weeks to come, Lord willing. And I think that's about it. That's all I got. That's all I have for this one, right? Stay focused and stay positive. You are loved. You are appreciated. And Lord willing, we shall see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's Wednesday. On Wednesday, we study the scriptures. We've been going through the book of Exodus. Man, I'm telling you, there's some awesome stuff in there. There's some wonderful stuff in there. Follow along with us, 9 a.m. Atlantic Daylight Time. Look at the itinerary. You'll see what we do from Monday to Friday, and maybe you'll find each day interesting to follow along with, or maybe there's certain days with certain themes you'd gravitate more closely to. Good stuff.